This is a little article that I came across on Twitter earlier today. It's a thing running by Game Informer. They're doing a little series of interviews or articles about Final Fantasy 16. And while for the most part I'm trying to stay as spoiler free for this game as possible, I thought I'd make an exception for this just because it is about the music, and I love the music of Final Fantasy 16, and I highly doubt anything in here would be considered a spoiler for the story of the game because it's just the soundtrack. I haven't read it yet, so I just thought I'd go ahead and read it and tell my thoughts and what I feel about this. So this is from Game Informer by Wesley LeBlanc, June 2nd. The music of Final Fantasy 16, Part 2, The Victory Fanfare. Says, for my money, one of the most interesting aspects of a game's creation is the composition and orchestration of its music. With Final Fantasy, that's doubly the case because for me, and I imagine for so many others, its soundtrack is one of its best parts. Be it lo-fi channels, new arrangements, compilations, piano versions, or something else, Final Fantasy music makes its way into many of my playlists. That is true for myself as well. I have an entire playlist of songs on my phone that is, in particular, strictly Final Fantasy 14 music, because I play Final Fantasy 14 a lot, and I'm always listening to 14 music, whether I'm playing the game or not. So I do have a full playlist of at least 100 songs on it that are exclusively from Final Fantasy 14. That's why I was so excited to chat with composer Masayoshi Soken about his score for Final Fantasy 16. You might recognize his name as he's also the composer of Final Fantasy 14. Still, if you don't, there's a chance it's a name you come to remember following the release of 16 because after spending more than 3 hours of hands-on time with the game at Square Enix's Tokyo, Japan office, confident we're about to get a banger of a score. And there he is, the legend himself, Masayoshi Soken. In talking with Soken, I wanted to speak to him about some of the major themes and melodies of any Final Fantasy game. Things like the prelude, the main theme, the victory fanfare, and more. He had plenty to say, and in this 4-part series we'll be breaking the different aspects of the music that excite me and hopefully you too. Creating the victory fanfare. Much like the familiar Final Fantasy melody called the prelude, which you can read about here, the series' victory fanfare is a well-known jingle, and similar to the prelude, it shifts to match wherever it appears. Composed by famed Final Fantasy composer Nobuo Uematsu from the original 1987 release of Final Fantasy I, it has since appeared in nearly every Final Fantasy game. If you don't recognize its name, there's still a good chance you're familiar with the melody. And I'm not going to play that because I don't want to get copyrighted, but it's a very, very iconic sound that most people have probably heard before. Even if you've never played Final Fantasy before, you've probably heard it. It just goes da 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 da. That's it. I'm not gonna play the video, but that's what it sounds like, and most people I think have probably heard it before. I was curious how Soken created a new victory fanfare for 16. He's done it before, and you'll hear it often in 14, but it resembles its classic counterparts more than anything else. Deep brass instruments, some bright trumpets on top, and a booming chorus laid lightly behind it all to give it extra oomph of gravitas. His victory fanfare for 16 sounds aptly more medieval and gothic. Unlike 14, the booming chorus does most of the melodic work with impactful percussion accenting it. It's quite different but fitting for the themes of revenge, war, and finding oneself amongst it all demonstrated in the game thus far. Soken tells me that getting 16's victory fanfare to where it is today comes a lot from learning through composing the music of 14. As you know, I am working on Final Fantasy 14 as I work on 16, and have been working on 14 for a long time. I learned a lot by working on Final Fantasy 14, and I learned a lot of tricks they could do to make certain songs sound a certain way. I kind of stumbled upon that if I use more male choice forces, you get a darker sound of music. When having to create the victory fanfare for 14, knowing that this was a dark game, I immediately thought, okay, if I use male choir, you're going to get that type of dark, heavy sound. And so I didn't really have to think too much about it because it was just something that came to me from my past experience on 14. I can actually give a very good example of that. If you play or listen to the theme music for the final Eden raid from Shadowbringers, it's called Eden's Promise. The final Eden fight in the Eden raids from Shadowbringers uses a really, really, really good song that uses both male and female choruses at various parts in the song, and there's a very clear difference between the male and female sounds, and they both counter each other really, really well. And it's a really good example of using the male and the female voices to their complete extent of what they're capable of doing. So if you want an example, definitely listen to the music for Eden's Promise from Final Fantasy XIV. That said, Soken reveals that creating the victory fanfare we'll hear this June wasn't so easy. He says his first draft was outright bad. First draft I made was absolutely terrible, he tells me. Because I wanted it to be perfect, I think I ended up working on it right until Master. And I think probably made about 30 different versions of the fanfare. Right before Master, though, which is the game development's peak for the final version of the game goes gold, Soken says he found the one that went perfectly. That's the one we'll hear in-game this month. If you're a fan of Soken, you might be surprised to learn something he wrote is absolutely terrible because let's just call a spade a spade, his score rules. But apparently this process isn't unusual, it happened a lot, he says. Something I find especially interesting about the victory fanfare is the chorus features lyrics, and 16 localization director, one that gained many faces for this press so far, Michael Christopher Koji Fox, wrote most of them. Koji Fox also works on Final Fantasy XIV a lot. He's done some of the music for 14 as well. I worked a lot with the head of localization on 14, now the localization director on 16, Koji, yeah, like I said. We worked together a lot on creating a lot of the tracks that I make, Soken says, and whenever I decided to put a chorus in a song, I can always go to Koji and ask him to write the lyrics for me. That's what happened on the fanfare as well. And that looks like it's it. So, yeah. Fun, nice little article talking about the music for Final Fantasy XVI. In particular, I'll end this with a picture of Torgal, because everyone likes Torgal. But yeah, just a fun little short read about the music of Final Fantasy XVI, focusing on the victory fanfare theme. So yeah, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter. All of my links will be in the description.